Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about a new topic, that is neural tube defects and role of folic acid in lowering the risk of neural tube defects. So what is neural tube defects? We will be going to that at first. So meaning and etiology of neural tube defect. Neural tube defect is a congenital deformity and it can occur anywhere along the spinal cord of the fetus due to defective embryological development or genetic abnormalities. Neural tube defect, it is a congenital condition, and after conception, after 4 weeks of conception, the neural tube formulates in the embryo, and from the neural tube the brain and spinal cord it develops eventually. So this can occur anywhere along the spinal cord or in the brain. Coming to the definition of neural tube defects account for the largest proportion of congenital anomalies of the central nervous system and result from failure of the neural tube to close spontaneously between the 3rd and 4th week of in utero development. So as it has given here that it is the largest congenital abnormality of the central nervous system, and this neural tube defects it occurs because of the failure of the tube in the conception period, that is in the 3rd or the 4th week of gestational period inside the uterus where the embryo is developing. Although the precise cause of neural tube defects remains unknown, there are few risk factors of neural tube defect. The first one is the family history of neural tube defects. If anyone in the family member is having such sort of genetic abnormality, then there is a high risk of the in the future generation to develop NTDs. Second is certain syndromes and chromosomal disorders. There can be other additional chromosomal disorders or syndromes like Down syndrome or Klinefelter syndrome. So this can also be a risk factor of developing neural tube defect. Third one is low dietary, low folic acid. Folic acid is responsible for the proper development of neural tube. So actually we used to advise the pregnant mothers to take preconceptional folic acid to prevent the risks of developing neural tube defects. So if there is a low dietary source of folic acid, it can also lead to neural tube defect. Fourth one is administration of sodium valproate and folic acid antagonist, like for example some epileptics or trimethoprim. So these are all anti-epileptic drugs. So these anti-epileptic drugs can also lead to be a risk to develop neural tube defects. Hyperthermia can be a risk factor, malnutrition, low red cell folate levels, because folic acid deficiency can also lead to anemia, folic acid deficiency anemia or megaloblastic anemia. So it can also lead to neural tube defect if the mother is suffering from megaloblastic anemia. Next is exposure to chemicals and radiation. If the mother is exposed to chemical and radiation, it can also be a risk factor. Maternal obesity or diabetes, and genetic determinants like mutation in folate responsive or folate dependent enzyme pathways. So these are some genetic determinants which acts as a risk factor for development of NTDs. We can classify neural tube defect as open and closed. Open neural tube defect often involve the entire central nervous system with neural tissue is exposed and cerebrospinal fluid leak. And closed is localized to the spine, brain rarely affected, neural tissue not exposed, although the skin covering the defect may be dysplastic. Open neural tube defect often involves the entire central nervous system, that means the brain and the spinal cord, and the neural tissue, that means the meninges, the cerebrospinal fluid, and the nerves are exposed. In closed neural tube defect, it is only localized to the spine and the brain is rarely affected, and neural tissue is not exposed, but the skin covering the defect can be dysplastic, or there may be a tuft of hair or a dimple like depression. Coming to the cranial neural tube defect, it is divided into anencephaly, encephalocele, and congenital dermal sinus. Encephalocele is again further divided into meningocele and meningomyelocele. The spinal entities are spina bifida cystica, spina bifida occulta, myelomeningocele, meningocele, congenital dermal sinus, and caudal agenesis. So these are the defects of the spinal neural tube defect. Coming to the cranial neural tube defect, the first one is anencephaly. So as it can be clearly visible through the picture that there is absence of cranial vault with cerebral hemisphere completely absent or greatly reduced in size. So in anencephaly, there is absence of the cranium, the cranial vault with the cerebral hemispheres, and it is greatly reduced in size. So by looking itself, we can rule it out, the condition of anencephaly. Coming to craniokysis, this is a skull defect through which neural tissue protrudes. So there will be a protrusion of nerves, meninges, and the cerebrospinal fluid through the cranium. So that is referred as craniokysis. Exancephaly. In this, through the picture itself, we can identify that there is a protrusion of brain and the meninges out of the skull. The brain and the meninges is protruded in this condition. Encephalocele. Here through the picture only we can identify that there is a protrusion of brain and meninges into a fluid-filled sac through a skull defect. The whole brain and the meninges does not protrude, but through through an abnormality or a defect in the skull, the meninges and the CSF along with the nerve tissue protrudes through the skull. Rachis, this is another condition where the meninges and spinal cord are exposed through a fissure in the vertebral column. It is an abnormality of the spinal cord of the embryo or the fetus. Coming to the spinal neural tube defects, the first one is spina bifida. It is a neural tube defect where there is an incomplete closure of the vertebra and the neural tube. Spina bifida is a malformation of spine in which posterior portion of lamina of vertebra fail to close with or defective development of spinal cord. So in spina bifida, it is a malformation of the spine. Here the lamina, there is a lamina in the vertebra, so that lamina portion it fails to close, and it happens, incidence is 1 or 2 per 1000 live births. Coming to the etiology of spina bifida, the first one is genetic. So if there is any family history or genetic condition, 15 times more chance if parents had spina bifida. Maternal age, it also matters. If the mother is 35 years or more than 35 years, or the mother is below 20 years, then it can be a leading cause of spina bifida. Environmental conditions like exposure to radiations, diet, folic acid deficiency in pregnant mothers increases the risk of development of spina bifida. Spina bifida is divided into two types: spina bifida occulta and spina bifida cystica. Spina bifida cystica is again subdivided into two types: meningocele and myelomeningocele. Coming to spina bifida occulta, which is around 5% of the spinal neural tube defects. It is the failure of formation of the bony arc around the spinal cord. Spinal cord and meninges are normal, not visible externally, and it is usually asymptomatic. So in this condition, there is no protrusion of spinal cord or meninges or CSF, and externally nothing is visible, and it is asymptomatic in most of the cases. So here you can rule it out that there is only a little depression or dimple in the lumbar area. So like that we can identify that this is a spina bifida occulta. Spina bifida occulta not externally visible, and there is no protrusion of any external fluid filled sac. This is spina bifida cystica. Defect in the closure of posterior vertebral arc with protrusion of spinal cord and meninges through the defect. So here externally we can see the sac where there is protrusion of both spinal cord and meninges along with CSF. So it is again subdivided into meningocele and myelomeningocele. What is meningocele? It is a sac-like herniation through the bony formation containing meninges and CSF. The covering of the sac may be thin and translucent or membranous. So it is a sac-like formation and it herniates through the where there is the defect, where the bony arcs cannot close. Through that defect, the spinal cord, meninges and CSF, it leaks out and it forms a sac fluid filled sac. This is a meningocele where the spinal cord and meninges comes out through the defective bony prominence. Myelomeningocele, so it is also a sac-like protrusion where spinal cord, CSF and meninges comes out through the spinal cleft. Most cases is found in lumbar or lumbosacral region. In the previous one, there is not protrusion of meninges, only there is protrusion of spinal cord and CSF. But in myelomeningocele, there is protrusion of meninges along with spinal cord and CSF, and it is mainly found in the lumbar region or the lumbosacral region of the vertebra. So this is a myelomeningocele where the CSF, fluid, spinal cord and the meninges comes out through the bony defect. Spina bifida cystica occurs in the lumbar region, lower lumbar region, upper lumbar region and sacral region. Through the diagram you can make it out. Coming to the pathophysiology of neural tube defect. Neural tube development starts at the 3rd week of gestation. That means after conception in the 3rd week, the neural tube development starts from the ectoderm. Depression forms at dorsal of the ectoderm. Neural tube closes by the end of 4th week. Walls of neural tube thicken and become spinal cord and brain. So thereafter neural canal, it leads to ventricles and central canal of spinal cord, and vertebral column is formed simultaneously. So from here we can rule it out that the neural tube is formulated within the 3rd and 4th week of gestational age from the ectoderm, and by the end of the 4th week the neural tube closes. So if after 4th week the neural tube doesn't close, then it can lead to the defect. The clinical features of spina bifida occulta are: most of the patients are asymptomatic. We cannot see any symptoms in the patient. There can be a formation of dimple in the skin, or there may be a growth of hair over the malformed area, which is known as tuft of hairs. In the picture you can see, and may experience foot weakness because of the involvement of the nerves, sensory nerves, then disturbance in bladder and bowel sphincter. There can be incontinence of, sometimes there can be incontinence of stool or urine. Otherwise, in most of the cases, spina bifida occulta remains asymptomatic. In spina bifida cystica, the signs and symptoms in meningocele are: it is a visible cystic defect at the back. The sac contains meninges and CSF. Spinal cord is not included. There will be weakness of the legs because of the involvement of the nerves which are supplying the legs, and there will be lack of sphincter control. The patient can have incontinence of urine and incontinence of stool because of the involvement of the sensory nerves supplying the bladder, the bowel and the lower limbs. In myelomeningocele, the signs and symptoms are: depends on the location of defect. Higher the defect, more the neurological deficit. So if the defect is in the upper lumbar region or the lumbar region, so the defect will be severe. If it comes to the sacral region, the signs and symptoms will be little bit lesser than the lumbar region or upper lumbar region. Herniated mass present over vertebral column. There can be associated hydrocephalus. This is a condition where there is accumulation of CSF in the ventricles of the brain. Loss of motor control, loss of sensation, thoracic lesion like flaccid paralysis, sacral lesion leads to weakness of the lower limbs. So these are the signs and symptoms of myelomeningocele. And loss of motor control and loss of sensation occurs because of the involvement of the nerves supplying the region. Bowel and bladder may or may not be affected. There will be urinary tract infection, skeletal anomalies, and developmental delays. Diagnostic evaluation, as we have already discussed in the previous class regarding the prenatal diagnosis, we can do ultrasonography, fetal MRI, and amniocentesis to rule it out the defect. After birth, we can do the CT scan and MRI, and if the fetus is suffering from myelomeningocele or meningocele, there will be a protrusion of sac at the back. So by examination, physical examination, we can rule it out. Management is no intervention for spina bifida occulta as it is hidden and the patients are asymptomatic. Spina bifida cystica requires surgery. There can be laminectomy, that means removal of the vertebral lamina, and closure of the defect or removal of the sac is done within 24 to 48 hours. T-closure of skin graft is also done. So coming to the preventive part, we have to give genetic counseling in the antenatal period to the couples. Therapeutic abortion can be done if detected during early pregnancy. If spina bifida occulta is detected, then there is no problem in carrying the pregnancy. But if the fetus is detected with spina bifida cystica, and whether it can be meningocele or myelomeningocele, or if it happens in the upper vertebral region, or if it is, or if the fetus is diagnosed as having anencephaly or encephalocele, then the physician will advise for therapeutic abortion. Incidence can be reduced if folic acid supplementation is taken, that is 1 mg folic acid per day. So before pregnancy, the pregnant mother, the couple who are planning for the pregnancy can go for folic acid supplementation. So there are some sources of folic acid. Rich sources are green leafy vegetables, whole grain, cereals, liver, kidney of meat, yeast and egg. And milk is a poor source of folic acid. So the couple who are planning for conceiving, the lady can go for this folic acid rich diet. This is the dietary requirement of folic acid in adult children, pregnant lady and lactating mothers, microgram per day. So we will advise that to prevent spina bifida or neural tube defects, the lady should take folic acid supplementation before and whole throughout the pregnancy to avoid this type of defects. Thank you so much.